Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Say what? Say what? Say what? One more time.
We kick things off with our signature segment, Say What?, where we roll out a virtual assembly line of wacky, astonishing, damnable, and ultimately revealing things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. America's Marxist moment is upon us. Violence raging in the streets, largely unchecked by Democrats running the cities under siege, refusing to stop anything short of murder, it seems. And even then, in the occupied streets of Seattle, they aren't even allowed to attend to a person shot by who knows who in a nighttime war zone run by armed vigilantes dispensing street justice in a police-free environment. It's happening everywhere. And here's the answer from the left. Here's how it went down in the nation's largest city. Here's how the mayor and city council of New York bowed to the mob.
It's a win for Occupy City Hall. Protesters had camped outside of City Hall for nearly a week straight, and they were demanding the funding be cut.
The protesters here from Occupy City Hall are elated today after hearing that the mayor has sent over the city council a proposal to cut $1 billion from the NYPD and then use that money on youth and social services. And the mayor is promising that he can do that and keep the city safe.
Bowing to the mob, that proposal became law. So we will now witness a massive social experiment of enormous magnitude. Less police protection in exchange for more social workers. That'll be tried on the guinea pigs known as the residents of the nation's largest city and arguably the most important city in the world. And it may be coming soon to a city near you. The evacuation of New York by civilized people with sufficient means to get out of Dodge is inevitable. But while supposed black rage is flowing through the streets of America, have you noticed that it's largely young white people who are in the midst of almost every violent episode we've been forced to witness, every statue toppled, every business destroyed, every innocent person standing in the way of these criminals? And it's no wonder when they're getting fed a steady diet of self-loathing white guilt from fearful white liberals in politics, academia, and the media who somehow believe burning, looting, tearing down monuments is justified. That attitude is typified by a man who started as a comedian and actually incredibly rose to become the most trusted source of news at one time, Jon Stewart.
We built a segregated system, and we built it up for 400 years. And just because we said it was over wasn't enough, we have to dismantle it in the same way that, with the same effort and the same vehemence that we built it. And we haven't done that. And by leaving those structures intact, like, we created the projects. We made it so that the class and race divisions were permanent. It was the law. And so rather than policing the borders of those structures, I feel like our efforts should be in dismantling them.
Translation: let's dismantle the system that made me, for one, free and rich beyond measure, because you must signal your virtue. Sad spectacle. Listen to Robert Johnson, arguably the most successful black man in America, founder of BET, Black Entertainment Television, put the white response to the chaos in the streets in perfect perspective.
The idea we're going to topple a statue because what? It's not going to close the wealth gap. It's not going to give a kid whose parents can't afford a college money to go to college. It's not going to close the labor gap between what white workers are paid and what black workers are paid. And it's not going to take people off welfare or food stamps. You know, it's people having fun that they can go out and pull down a statue and have the mistaken assumption that black people are sitting around cheering for them, say, oh my God, look at these white people. They're doing something so important to us. They're taking down a statue of a Civil War general who fought for the South. Black people laugh at white people who do this.
Bingo. So these criminal punks are out roving around, having a grand old time, smashing windows, looting, burning, intimidating, threatening, whoever they please. Democratic leaders are not stopping them. So rest assured, you'll see more and more incidents like the one this week in St. Louis, where a man named Mark McCloskey brandished a weapon to protect what the police will no longer protect, his home, from an approaching mob. And to show you how the media's handling this, listen to how this homeowner was questioned and demonized by Chris Cuomo of CNN.
How do you feel about becoming the face of political resistance to the Black Lives Matter movement?
First of all, that's a completely ridiculous statement. I'm not the face of anything opposing the Black Lives Matter movement. I was a person scared for my life who was protecting my wife, my home, my hearth, my livelihood. I was a victim of a mob that came through the gate. I didn't care what color they were. I didn't care what their motivation was. I was in imminent fear that they would run me over, kill me, burn my house. And you have to have this in the context of St. Louis, where on June the 2nd of this year, I watched the city burn. I watched the 7-Eleven get smashed in, looted, and burned for 40 minutes on live television with nobody showing up to do anything. And I realized at that time we're on our own.
You were the one pointing a loaded weapon at a group of people who were walking past looking for the mayor's house as a point of protest.
Chris, that's an entirely false concept. No single media outlet has ever mentioned the complete falsity of that statement. The mayor's house cannot be reached through my neighborhood.
Lies, distortions, forget fake news. How about fake narratives? Like the one telling us that Black Lives Matter is interested in racial justice. We'll talk in the next segment about what they're really about by their own admission. Meanwhile, the COVID comeback, inevitable to some degree when states finally reopened after months of shutdown, has the media ushering Dr. Anthony Fauci back to the pedestal. But now he's getting open pushback from state leaders who no longer trust him, like the lieutenant governor of Texas, the largest state to see a COVID resurgence, Dan Patrick.
Fauci said today that he's concerned about states like Texas that skipped over certain things. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We haven't skipped over anything. The only thing I'm skipping over is listening to him. He has been wrong every time on every issue. I don't need his advice anymore. We'll listen to a lot of science. We'll listen to a lot of doctors, and Governor Abbott, myself, and other state leaders will make the decision. No, thank you, Dr. Fauci.
One thing I can tell you almost for sure. No Republican governors are going to shut down again. They will mitigate, protect, or isolate their most vulnerable populations. Democrat governors? Who knows?